Quick question. If you kicked off a brand new digital marketing campaign for your college tomorrow, would you be able to handle all of the leads it generated?
It's a great question, Lauren. It's a question that is too often just not thought of by some of the people we work with and many other colleges and agencies that implement digital marketing campaigns. So much attention is paid to the strategy itself and the campaign itself, rightfully so, that it's very easy to completely forget about having a process in place to efficiently handle all the leads that are going to come in. So to better illustrate this point, I want to quickly show you a commercial, a UPS commercial from, I believe it's the late 90s or early 2000s, and I was finally able to dig it up on YouTube. So let's take a quick look at this commercial to get a better idea of what exactly I'm talking about.
3, 2, 1. We are officially open for business.
Okay.
Facing a virtual reality? UPS can help you plan for it, manage it, and deal with it. We deliver more e-shipments than anyone. UPS, moving at the speed of business.
So as you can see from that commercial, your college is not terribly unlike this e-commerce company that has started up. They're so excited just to get online and have things going. They start getting some orders in your case leads, they're very excited, and suddenly they become overwhelmed because they realize they just don't have a system in place to accommodate that. And that's what we want to talk about today, is a few ways to help you prepare ahead of time so you don't have those looks of bewilderment that the people in the UPS commercial had.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure your college or agency probably already has an individual or maybe multiple individuals in place who kind of answer the phone calls of prospective students, or if we're talking about like a workforce dev type of program from prospective employees. They're probably answering those calls. They're probably responding via email to people who submit forms online, or following up to people who submit forms online with a phone call. But depending on the scope of your campaign and how large it is and the amount of people that you need to pull through that campaign and the leads you need to generate and the seats that you need to fill in the classroom or the jobs you need to fill for XYZ company, that campaign could be huge. And chances are it's probably going to be much larger than the typical number of leads that you're seeing coming in on a daily basis just for what you're currently doing without the whole digital marketing campaign. So just to kind of put it into perspective, let's just say, for example, that you start this new digital marketing campaign and it starts generating 100 leads per day, which is what we've seen with the marketing campaigns we've done for the schools and agencies we work with. That adds up to 700 leads per week. And let's say that you've got a typical work week, it's 5 working days per week. So you're going to have to cut those 700 leads per week into 140 leads per day that you're having to follow up with and manage. 140 leads per day would be responding to 17.5 people or 17.5 leads per hour. And let's just say that each lead requires 3.4 minutes of talking time. And that's probably going to be more than 3.4 minutes, especially if you're doing some type of workforce dev campaign where you're looking to fill jobs for a company. They're going to be calling in, asking all sorts of questions about what the pay is and the benefits and all of that. So that's probably a lot less than what it's going to be. So you add all of that up, and let's say you have one individual or even just 2 or 3 individuals, that's a lot to handle on top of their daily tasks that they already have to do for just their job in general. So,
and the leads keep coming, they keep piling up. So just like the commercial, if you had a ding for every lead, at some point it may begin to sound like a flat line almost. It's a solid tone. So that can be very overwhelming. So I want to go over 3 quick steps that you can consider and implement before your campaign kicks off. They're going to greatly help you combat this and be able to manage it in a very efficient manner. One is make sure that you get quality leads in the first place. There's nothing worse than having your staff, having to, call these leads back or email them back only to learn that they were not a good fit in the first place. So your landing page or your website, wherever you're sending your traffic from your campaign, where these people are converting, you need to be sure that you have very clear language and that you maybe even the questions you ask in the form, if you're using a form, you need to be sure that you're trying to filter out the bad leads right from the start. So that way, the precious time that you spend, calling and emailing people back, you're only contacting, qualified leads. The second thing, you need to have an efficient means for storing these leads. Now, by default, most website forms simply email the contents of that form submission to someone or some persons. In small quantities, that's great. If you're getting 100 leads a day, which again it could be more than that, but if you're getting a large number of leads per day, every single day, 24 hours a day, managing that many emails in your inbox is going to be a nightmare. Because eventually you're going to have thousands and thousands of emails. You're going to be trying to filter and put in a folder, and then you're trying to delegate these to other people, and you're not going to be able to keep up with who has and has not been contacted, and some of your leads they'll slip through the cracks. It's just going to be a very poor scenario. So you need to link up your website form with some sort of tool. Now, maybe you already have a CRM system of sorts or some sort of software that you use to manage your leads. That's great if you do. Congrats. A lot of people don't. We use a tool called Zapier, Zapier, that allows you to connect your website form to another software. It could be a CRM. It could even just be something as simple as a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet. So the lead not only is emailed to someone when it comes through, but it's automatically saved in a place where it can be managed, shared, seen by multiple people, a part of your regular workflow, so you can mark when they have or have not been called. You can put notes in, things like that. Again, Zapier offers lots of different integrations, so I definitely urge you to check that out. The third step or thing you need to keep in mind before your campaign starts is having a delegation plan in place. You need to have more than one person responsible for calling and corresponding with these leads. Because even if you have a smaller campaign where you don't have these types of large volumes, it's still imperative. You need to get back with them quickly, and you need to be able to keep it managed. Who has and has not been communicated with. So having multiple people involved, that way if the primary person is sick or goes on vacation, these leads don't just pile up. You need to have a team effort in place. There's many different ways you can delegate who is responsible for which lead that comes in. Probably the most common is geography. Again, that depends on your campaign. It could be a specific question they answer in the form, so it could be based on their prior job experience or education level, or maybe what degree they're interested in. You could then funnel those out to different persons based on that information. But you need to have that planned ahead of time. Don't wait until the leads are pouring in and you're getting buried alive to try and figure out how to handle all those. But again, no two campaigns are alike. You just need to figure out what's best for you.
Yeah, and one other point I would make too is just making sure if it is absolutely impossible for you to hire on more people to help handle these leads, and the one or two individuals you have in place are going to be completely overwhelmed with handling them, set that expectation up on like the thank you page that the people are redirected to when they submit a form online, to just say like, hey, someone will be in touch with you in 24 hours. So then they're not expecting just someone to pick up the phone as soon as they submit something. And also too, just another way to kind of cut down on bad leads and sending bad unqualified traffic to your website. Yes, the content and wording it right and having the form options on there to kind of weed out the bad leads, but even before they get to the landing page, make sure you're targeting your ads to a very qualified group of people, and that'll help kind of cut down on those bad leads as well. Like if you're marketing the nursing program at your school and you see that most of your students, 85% of your students are female between the ages of 18 and 30, you definitely don't want to be showing your ads to a man who's 40 years or older. You want to make that targeting really narrowed too with your ads, so then you can cut down on those bad leads. So that's also something to keep in mind. But just moving on to just one other statistic, if your campaign, even if it is really narrow in scope and you have a very, very niche program that you're promoting where you're not going to get a lot of leads for it, you still need to have an efficient process in place for managing those leads. And you still need to be prepared that you could be surprised. I mean, we've had tons of campaigns that we've run for clients where we're like, well, I don't know if we're really going to be able to generate a lot of people for this particular campaign just because it's so narrow and niche and it just doesn't seem like a lot of people would be interested in it. Then sure enough, we get the campaign going And a couple days into it, we've already generated over 100 leads just after a couple days. So you can't assume anything. So having that process in place to manage those leads, no matter the number. And just like a little tip and a little stat is if you contact a lead within 5 minutes of them submitting a form online, your odds of speaking with them are 100 times greater than if you contacted them 30 minutes or more after they submitted. So don't just assume that someone's just patiently waiting, even though they've shown interest by submitting a form. Life could catch up with them, and they could all of a sudden get pulled away from their phone because of work or because of kids or what have you. Or they could, if we're talking about, trying to fill jobs for a company through workforce development, they could just move on to the next job and apply because they didn't hear back from you, and they just kind of marked it off their list and moved on. So
we met with a customer of ours just a few weeks ago, an incredibly narrow target audience for this particular campaign. We had generated between 200 and 300 leads. We were kind of meeting with them to see, what the quality of those leads were and how they were doing. And they had only spoken with probably 10%, I believe, give or take. And, we were a bit concerned about that. And, we inquired, well, how are you following up with them? And sometimes it was taking them days to call them back. And these are people that had gone out of their way to fill out the lead form. So they were definitely interested, but they weren't answering their phone, they weren't calling back. And there's no doubt in my mind, we have the data to prove it, that had they called them back much sooner, they would have spoken to way more than 10% of those leads. So,
or even an auto email that fires off as soon as they submit a form with maybe some information, or giving them the option to schedule the call themselves through a thing like Calendly or something like that.
It's a great idea.
So.
It's a great idea. Well, that's what we want to touch on today. It's a very common problem because it's so easy to overlook, but it's something we try to work with our customers to get out in front of before a campaign starts, and I hope you do the same with your campaigns. If you have any questions or comments, I hope you comment below. I will definitely respond. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.